Hello, welcome back to another pen talk. Thank you very much for tuning in. And yes, we're going to look at a Moonman pen. Here's what it is. We'll give you that translation. Inside that box was a little cardboard insert that the pen attaches to. Yes, it is a familiar shape, one that we've seen recently on my channel, and it's been on a lot of people's channels, but I decided I would get one just so I could compare it to my Parker 25B. Snap-off cap, and it's very secure, and we'll see a branded Moonman nib, and it's in fine. Shape is familiar. Yeah, it fits in the hand fine. And as we know, based on the design, it just posts perfectly. Doesn't really change the balance much. Actually looks good in the hand posted. An iconic design, of which Parker has a few of those. Dual fold 51, etc., etc. So we're going to look at this pen compared to my original Parker from the 90s. Ink it up. I have a great ink in mind, and see how that fine nib writes. So I think it's hilarious, amusing, funny, maybe sad that we have Moonman on the pen, yet the listings say Majohn. So it's, was this a pen made before they changed the name to Majohn, or was all this stuff around for years, and in order to avoid the wrath of Queveco, are they just putting it in the listing? Yes, it is a funny pen world that we live in. But the great part is there's still a lot of unbelievable, amazing pens for us to enjoy. So I just did a little bit of taking apart. Primarily, I wanted to show the converter. And of course, that little spring will be removed and not put back in. And this metal collar just pulls off. Sometimes they're threaded and they unscrew. So when I use my trusty rubber gripper, I first turn the collar if I want to disassemble the converter, and if it doesn't pull, then I'll do a little twist and pull to get it off. Of course, I will lubricate the piston and the screw threads here on that piston rod. It's a simplistic design. Interesting that they put the nib size in the back of the feed. Very common for Parker to do that, but they didn't do it on many of the Parker 25 models. At least the one that I have doesn't have it. Nice orange color that's throughout the pen. Just a thin-walled metal tube that has that brass insert that's threaded. And of course, you got the push-pull cap. So like everything else, like the nib and everything, it says Moonman, not Majohn, even though all the listings say Majohn. And there's a little spade design there in the clip. That's it. I've already rinsed out the nib, ready to put some ink in. Hey, are the converters acceptable? And yes, they are adaptable. They have that same design at the end, which is the important part when you're trying to find a converter or cartridge to fit into your pen. So for the price of the Majohn 25B, you get a converter, which if you try to buy a Parker converter, you're probably going to spend as much money as you do. Might as well just buy the whole pen. It's a non-branded converter, and I did take the spring out. So they are compatible when it comes to that. So here's the Moonman, because that's how it's labeled, even though it's sold and listed as a Majohn, but then that's the legal thing. So they did duplicate, pretty much so, but not exactly, the Parker. You know, in my research, back in the 70s, Parker moved some equipment, some to make the Parker 45 to China, to potentially make those pens in China, but the executive fell out of favor and the equipment was left in China. And the Chinese are very inventive and creative when it comes to making things. Maybe not exactly that way in the design of what they make, but they've been making homage to a lot of vintage. I certainly like the Parker emblem design compared to what's in the Majohn. I mean, obviously a two-tone like that is a more expensive design. If you look at the side of the clip, we'll see that the ball in the Parker is more rounded, so it easily slips over fabric much more easier than the Majohn does, which is more squared off. I like the orange. I like the fact that you got that orange dot on the top. Obviously, at the bottom, it's the same, just that piece of formed steel, stainless steel, and non-magnetic stainless steel. Both of these, the caps pop off. And Parker has been good at replicating those colors. Orange is a very rare color for the Parker 25, so that's why I wanted it in the Majohn one. But those nibs are different. They did not copy the nib design, but they did copy putting that F on the back of the feed, unlike the Parker one, which doesn't have it. They put it on a lot of their other pens. Same little metal insert here. We'll see how the nibs compare. The threads on the sections are slightly different, so you just can't take the section out of the Majohn and put it into the Parker, or vice versa. They don't work. And the caps will fit, but they don't fit as securely when you swap them as they do when you have them on the original pen they were made for. So I say homage, some people say copy. I don't really care. I think Vincento said it best. If you like the pen, you like the pen. Don't worry about anything else. So let's see if we like this pen. So I wanted to put an orange ink in, and I haven't put this in a pen recently. And yes, it has lots of gold glitter. And this bottle had set for a while, and it takes a good amount of shaking to get that glitter material in suspension, which is a problem I've had with all the glitter inks from Majohn. Not a fan of them. My other glitter inks, even especially the ones from Birmingham Pen Company, just work better. If it settles out that quickly and that more difficult to put in suspension in the bottle, it's going to do the same sitting in the pen, but I'm willing to give it a shot because it's a great color and it looks good on paper. This is the first nib in a long time of the many pens that I've gotten that is a totally unacceptable nib to me. It is very scratchy, and I've written a page or two with it, and it has not gotten better. It picks up paper. That's how sharp it is. You'll get paper stuck in the nib. I'm certain all of us have experienced that at some point in time. But I'm very, very disappointed. The Parker nib was beautiful, smooth, very good first time it touched paper. This one, we're going to do some smoothing on it. See if we can correct it. And I looked at the nib under a loop and the tines look fine. It's just the way that tipping is done. It just has sharp edges to it. So hopefully with a little bit of smoothing on some emery paper, emery board. Yeah, I'm not a micro mesh guy. Takes too long. So this is the nail board. I used another one that's been very well used. So it has coarse on this side, medium, and fine smoothing. And here's another board that I can use too. It's coarser on one side, smoother on the other. Just do a bunch of figure eights. And because the way the nib was catching paper, I did a lot of verticals up and down. And it took off the edge off that nib. Let's show you how it writes now. The nib is now acceptable. I wouldn't say it's great. I don't think it'll ever be great. You know, if I was into grinding or doing things like that, but no, I've not crossed over that line yet. Yeah, I did grind a few nibs, but it didn't excite me, and I'd much rather get nibs ground by Bobby or other people that I enjoy just writing with them. But you notice the line's a little bit wider, puts down a little bit more ink. And it feels good on paper, which is the important part when you're using a pen. So with that, I've turned it into a decent writer. Let's compare it to the Parker. The Parker nib just feels better on paper. Lays down a nicer line. The nib works great, and I had to do nothing to it. So one of the things that I say a lot on my channel is that every pen can be enjoyed, and this pen is a great example of that. When I first put nib to paper, it was terrible. It was the worst nib that I've had in as far as my memory goes, which is not real far because I'm an old guy and there's a lot of memories there. But with a little bit of smoothing, the nib now is fine. It's never going to be a phenomenal nib or great nib. It's not what it's designed for. What it's designed for, which is like the original Parker was designed for, is a great everyday writer, very durable, made out of metal, has some interesting little color bits to it, but that's not why it exists. It exists because it's just simply a pen. And those of us that have a lot of experience with fountain pens realize occasionally we need to provide a little tender loving care. Hopefully over our experience with fountain pens we've learned what works and what doesn't work and what works for us. And that's the key thing. It's a personal experience, one that only you can understand. People try to share it and people want other people to tell them what to do, but no. Not my style. I give guidance, I give suggestions. You know, I watch YouTube videos to get ideas, not to be told or not to only have one opinion. I do it to have many opinions, and that's what's great. That's, to me, is the joy of social media, not fixating on one idea or one approach or whatever. So now I have a good pen. So we're going to write off the end. And there's a few of them in the pipeline. I actually bought more pens than I need to. I bought ink, you know. That's what I do. Yes, the nib is now smooth, and you do hear that pencil-like feedback, but that's fine. I enjoy a little feedback. So now, I enjoy the pen with this ink. Writes nicely. And I like the color. That's why it's in the pen. So with that, we've come to the conclusion of the video. I hope it found everyone safe, healthy, and happy, enjoying your pens, enjoying your inks, your papers, writing a letter to somebody. I do a fair bit of that. So I'd like to thank all of you for watching. Have a wonderful day. We've reached the end, and we will say bye. We'll close out with a little bit of bird video for those that like it. Bye.